Hola, this is Chef Juan from foodwishes.com con Salsa Cruda. That's right, I'm showing you my secret recipe for the world's best Salsa Cruda. Cinco de Mayo is coming up, and as anyone will tell you, if you don't serve homemade fresh salsa at your Cinco de Mayo party, you can't call it that. You have to call it your May 5th party, which sounds so lame. All right, so I want you to make some fresh salsa, and here's how you do it. Okay, so the first secret trick here, we're going to use cherry tomatoes, not large, horrible supermarket tomatoes. Your best bet is a cherry tomato, which is going to have the most similar flavor to a summertime vine-ripened tomato. And that's just the way it is. So I have some grape tomatoes, mostly red, and a few orange ones. So I want you to use one of these, a small serrated knife. This is the best tool. And we're simply going to cut those cherry tomatoes in either quarters or sixths or eighths. It depends on the size, all right? They're going to vary. So little ones cut in quarters, bigger ones maybe cut a few more times. But basically what you're looking for is a small dice like that. So yes, these are going to take longer to cut than the large tomatoes, but not that much longer. I actually timed myself and it was only 12 minutes to cut those up. So once your tomatoes are all cut up, we're going to go ahead and drain those well. Just throw them in a strainer, let them drip for about 15 minutes. Coincidentally, that's about the same amount of time it's going to take you to get the rest of the ingredients ready. And by the way, don't discard the liquid that drips to the bottom. That, mixed with a little vodka and chilled over ice, is an amazing shot. I've heard from, friends. So my tomatoes are draining. I'm going to go on to the next major ingredient, which is a white onion. So we're going to mince that up really fine. We're going to give it a bunch of little cuts this way. Then we're going to give it a couple cuts that way. And then we're going to shave it really thin. So we have a very, very fine dice. And people always ask, is it really different than yellow onion? Well, yes, it's a different color and has a different name. So it's definitely different. Some people say it's milder. I don't know about that. But I do know around here it's very traditional in salsa. So I'm going to use it. All right, next up, we got to bring the heat with some hot pepper. I have a serrano and a couple jalapeno. And I don't seed peppers. I just slice the flesh off the side like this. See that? You get all the meat off with none of the seeds. Once I get the meat off, I slice it in thin strips. I turn it and mince it. All right, so I minced my serrano and my jalapeno. I added that. I'm also going to add 1 or 2 finely minced garlic cloves. Then we're going to take a nice juicy lime, cut it in half. I'm going to squeeze that in. That acidity is very important. And by the way, before you do this step, make sure you got enough limes for the margaritas. Because if you don't, screw the salsa. Save the limes for the drinks. But I had plenty, so we're going to squeeze that in. I'm going to add a little pinch of dry oregano. I like it better than fresh. I think dry oregano has a little more interesting flavor in this. Some people refer to it as smoky. It's more like musty. All right, I'm going to give it a couple shakes of cayenne just to stay in shape. A big, big pinch of salt. Salt, very important here. So you want to mix it at this point and just let it sit while you chop your herbs, which is the next step. So we're going to use 2 kinds. I'm going to use cilantro, very traditional. I'm also going to use some mint. Surprise! Mint is awesome in salsa, just a little bit, but it gives it a beautiful sweetness. So I'm going to roll up 4 or 5 leaves, give them a little chiffonade, pardon my French, and then chop it up real fine, just like that. By the way, use a sharp knife. That's why your herbs are all black, because you're smashing them, you're not cutting them. And then I'm going to do about half the bunch of cilantro. By the way, you don't worry about the stems in cilantro. They are edible and taste basically the same as the leaves. So just whack it up. All right, I'm going to add my mint, I'm going to add my cilantro, and I'm going to give it a mix. And I really do think a large amount of herb is really, really important for this. In fact, that's a punchline to the old joke, what do salsa cruda and a fish concert have in common? Okay, after the herbs are all mixed in, we're going to give it the first of several tastes. And of course, you're going to taste on a chip, not a spoon, because the salt on the chip affects the flavor. It just makes sense. All right? So give it a taste, check for salt. Mine needed another pinch. And depending on the sweetness of your cherry tomatoes, you can add a small pinch of sugar. It's fine. How is that cheating? It's not. So if you need it, put it in. Once it's thoroughly mixed, I want you to press it down, flatten it down. I want you to cover it with plastic wrap, and I want you to put it in the refrigerator for exactly 1 hour. It's not like this is bad eating right away, but putting it in the fridge for an hour really, really develops the flavors, and it will be significantly better, okay? And 1 hour later, I unwrapped mine, I took a spoon, I fluffed it up. Of course, you're going to give it one more taste to make sure it's perfectly seasoned, because it will taste a little different after sitting for an hour. So adjust, and once you're happy, serve it. All right, you're gonna love that flavor you get from the cherry tomatoes, and you're really, really gonna love that little sweet hint of mint, which really brings out the other flavors, I think. Really, all it needed was like a 6-pack of cerveza, and this whole scene would have been complete. So I hope you give this a try. Head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.